James. I'm a personal trainer from empoweringpt.co.uk, and today I'm going to be talking to you about overcoming isometrics. Now, if you've been following me on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram, you've probably seen me doing these with Louise as we've been going through these overcoming isometrics and practicing them in different ways in trying to help her build up her strength. Now, this is an ideal method to both build muscular endurance, breaking down the muscles to increase hypertrophy, so muscle growth, and then also helping to develop your strength as well, depending on how you do it. First things first though, what's an overcoming isometric? So, as I said in my last video, isometrics are when you perform an exercise where the muscle length doesn't shorten or lengthen. So effectively, you stay in the same position. The difference with an overcoming isometric is that you're pushing against an immovable weight rather than just holding a weight that you can already manage. Now, for most people, they would wonder, if you can't move the weight, then surely it's not actually doing anything. But that's where they're actually wrong. By pressing against the weight that you can't physically move, you're actually forcing your body to recruit more muscle fibers so that you can then try to lift that weight. And if you were to then do a heavy deadlift, squat, bench press, something along those lines, then you would notice a difference as well. The problem with overcoming isometrics is that it's all you, and it's hard to see whether somebody's actually putting in the effort or not. I'll give you an example. So I've set up a bar just here, okay? So for overcoming isometrics, I'm going to try and do a deadlift, and I'm going to lift it up as much as I can, okay? I'm really going to put all my effort into it to lift it, okay? So, feet underneath the bar, going to come down, and then I'm just going to prepare myself and lift. So, that was an overcoming isometric with no weight at all, okay? The point is that people can act. Okay, you can pretend to put your absolute everything into the technique, but realistically, they're barely pressing. And that's the problem with this exercise and this training method, because you really don't know whether they're trying as hard as they can, because the weight isn't moving. They're not moving their body at all, so they could just be mimicking holding it. They could be laid down, doing a bench press, and they could be here. And they could be taking it easy, but as long as they're scrunching their face up and looking like they're trying really hard, then you're going to think that that's what they're doing. And this is where laziness comes in, and unfortunately, a lot of people will do it this way when they do try, because it is hard work. It also takes a lot of mental fortitude as well to be able to do this, because it can be quite demoralizing. Trying to lift a weight that you physically cannot lift. The odds are completely against you. You are not going to be able to lift that weight. It's 110% of your 1 rep max. It's impossible for you to lift. But if you can do it, if you do try as hard as you can, and you press against it with all your might, and you hold it there, then you're going to get the gains from it. You're going to develop that strength, that power, and you're going to improve that sticking point, because that's typically where we'll use this. So the best place typically to use an overcoming isometric is going to be the sticking point. Now this is where your arm or leg is typically parallel with the ground if you're lifting something upwards. Okay, if you're on a cable machine or anything like that, it's in line with the cable or wherever the force is coming from. So if I'm on a chest press machine and I'm pushing forwards and the cables are pulling it towards me, as it would, then I would be holding it here. Again, so I'm in line with the force. Okay, now this is the hardest point. It's all about leverage, you know. It's if you bring your arm up in line with the floor, so it's horizontal to gravity, then that's going to be a lot harder because I'm putting more tension through my shoulder to hold my arm up. Whereas if I hold it here, it's significantly easier. And if I just hold it down by my side, even easier still. So these are often the sticking points that we find. So it's the very bottom of your squat here. It's the very bottom of your bench press, for example. So these are the points typically where people lack strength. And this is where this type of exercise will help, because it will often allow people to develop strength in an area that they typically find uncomfortable, or this is a range of motion where they're not particularly confident in to get that low. So this just allows them to be able to do it safely. Now, I know what you're thinking, this doesn't particularly sound like a safe technique, but it is. It's completely controlled. Okay? And because you're not actually lifting the weight up, it's even more controlled and safer than, say, a negative. So what we do is, for example, start off with a resistance machine first, and what you don't want to do is do this with complete free weights. Okay? You wouldn't get a spotter to unrack a really heavy bench press, have you bring it down when you physically cannot lift it. Okay? That's just the easiest way to decapitate yourself. Okay, so instead, I recommend using a machine or something like a smithy. If you've got it, the Smith's machine is an excellent tool to be able to do this in because you can rack it in, it's nice and safe, and it's locked there. If you've got a squat rack as well, you can use that, okay, because it's got that little tilt, so you can't get it over. Okay, it will move around a little bit, but it's not going to move at all. What you don't want to do though is have something where it will move around, because then you're going to slide all over the place. Okay? If you can't move it up, your body will find a way to move it, and as you start to recruit other muscles, you'll find that you'll move. So if you've got that bottom bar on your squat rack and you come down and you try to lift it up from there, it's just going to slide all over the place because you can't move it up. The other option is, of course, a cable machine. Now this is nice and easy because you just lock it into where you need it and then pull from there. So the first thing me and Louise did is to work her legs, we focused on the leg press. Okay, to focus on that bottom portion of her squat to give her the confidence to be able to manage her 1 rep max on squats. We focused on the leg press, we got her in nice and close, and then we pressed from there. Okay, we pressed as hard as we could, and because we're focusing on strength, what we did is we did 10-second hold, so pressing as physically as hard as you can and maintaining that performance. That way you can develop that rather than exhausting yourself if you did it for, say, a minute. So we did a 10-second hold, we rested for 20 seconds just to try and recover, and then we did that 5 times, okay, and that was 1 set. Okay, that tends to work. If you need more rest, then that's absolutely fine. It all depends on your recovery. And then from there, what we could do easily is then transition that from there into a smithy or on the squat rack. So now that you've done the initial press, okay, you're confident with that, you're happy with how to do the technique, now you can transfer that onto the squat rack or the smithy and do your proper squat form. So you would come down with the bar underneath you, make sure it's racked in, and then from there, press as hard as you can, and again, using the same rep and set scheme, okay? So good, press as hard as you can, keep going, 5 seconds left. And rest. Okay, 20 seconds rest. Right, 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and press as hard as you can. Good, keep breathing. Keep pressing. And relax. Okay, 5 seconds. Go on, last one. Press as hard as you can now. Off you go. Go on, squeeze. Try to lift it. Keep going, keep going.
Oh my god,
3, 2, 1, and relax.
Oh.
Good. I think that's you finished.
Oh my god, I can't move.
Now, the limitation of doing this is that you're using both legs. Now, naturally, I don't expect somebody to do a one-legged squat or a pistol squat on a smithy or on a squat rack. I mean, if you can, fair play, okay? And if you have the skill and ability and the technique to do it perfectly, go for it. But for most people, it's better if you do it on the leg press. So if you want to work one leg at a time, by all means do that. So do exactly the same, 10-second hold on one leg, switch it over, 10-second hold on the other leg, and then you have your 10 seconds rest. So one leg should be resting while the other's working, so you can keep it moving fairly quickly and it shouldn't take up any more time really. Naturally, it will exhaust you a little bit quicker though, because you're doubling up the amount of effort you're putting into it. So you will feel that your energy will deplete quicker. So you may need to take a little bit more rest, experiment with it.
Three, two, one, change leg. Good, keep pushing, keep going, nearly there. 3, 2, 1, and relax.
So although we've just demonstrated it with leg press and squats, you can also do this with a deadlift. So just bring the weights in, rack it up with as much weight as you want. If you're not sure as to what your 1 rep max is and you have no idea where to put this weight on, just put something ridiculous on the end of it that you can't lift. You know, put the leg press all the way down to the bottom, put as much weight as you physically can on the deadlift. Put as much weight as you can on the Olympic bar and try to deadlift it. Okay? Now make sure you brace your back. Okay? This is where people will try to lift it and instead of keeping their back strong, they'll just do that and then try to lift it from there. Okay? Remember, you're trying to push as hard as you can. If you're doing this with a bad technique, it's almost as bad as lifting it with a bad technique. Okay? You're going to get the same kind of injuries. So another common one is the bench press. So people find that you get sticking point right at the bottom. So you bring the smithy down, or the chest press, if you can adjust it to bring it closer to you, perfect. Put the weight on really heavy, make sure that it's as low as you possibly can, and then press from there. Now of course everybody has slightly different sticking points. Some people will struggle, for example with bench press, at the very bottom, but if you've got a strong chest and not very strong triceps, then you might actually find that this is fine, but once you get to here, and you start to use more of your triceps, that's when you actually start to struggle. In which case, just do it here. So you bring the smithy slightly higher up and then practice it from here. The best way to do an overcoming isometric is to actually practice a full range of motion by doing this. So you would hold it for 10 seconds at the very bottom, then you would bring it up, have a brief rest, then practice it 10 seconds up at the top, and then break your range of movement into 2 or 3 different exercises to practice that in. And it's the same with the leg press as well. So you would do your leg press or your squat as low as you possibly can, then you would bring it up a little bit and try it from there, and then you would bring it up a little bit and then try it from there. Now, this is particularly important with these exercises with a wide range of motion. Now when you exercise a muscle in a particular range, then you will get, but the benefits will actually occur within around 20 degrees from that point, both up and down. So if I'm working bicep curl only here doing an isometric hold, I will actually find that I gain strength here and here as well, not just in this one portion, okay? Now use that to your advantage. So things like the squat where you've got this wide range of motion, focus on the glutes at the very bottom of the squat. So when you go all the way down, you're going to focus primarily on the glutes. And then as you come up, more glutes and quads. And then as you come up high, it's going to focus even more through on the quads. What this will do is allow you to lift even heavier if you're focusing on strength. If you're focusing on hypertrophy, then it'll allow you to develop evenly. But like I said, it depends what you're trying to get out of this method. If you're trying to do a new training method that you haven't tried before, just to spark some new bit of growth, whether you've hit a plateau or anything like that, then great, use a full range of motion, increase growth, something along those lines. If you're trying to improve strength, then it's most likely that sticking point that you want to work on, so focus on that. But if you want to increase whole body strength, then it could be a good thing to use as well, just to help break up your program a little bit. Do something a little bit different that's still going to benefit you, and it will also allow you to work some of those assisting muscles as well, and help you to develop that mind-muscle connection, to increase the amount of muscle fibers that you're using when lifting heavy, and it allows you to stabilize the movement more as well, because you'll develop the control. You know, if you get stuck, you're going to be able to control it and then bring it in before you let it go, if you're doing, say, a dumbbell press or something. Now, if you are wanting to do this for growth, then naturally you're going to want to do it longer than you are for strength. Okay, with strength we're focusing on performance, so if you were to hold it for as long as you possibly can pressing, eventually your strength's going to give in. You're not going to be able to press it as hard as you possibly can. However, this benefits those who want to focus on hypertrophy, who want to grow big arms and legs. Okay, so instead you would do exactly the same exercise, but you would hold it for longer. So minimum of about 30 seconds. You want to try and hold it for as long as you can. Even when you start to feel that you're starting to fatigue, you keep pressing. You keep pressing with all your might, press as hard as you can, press through it. It's going to burn like crazy, but you're going to want to hold it between 30 seconds and 1 minute. And what this will do is it will give you plenty of time to break down that muscle, and then from there you can rest and then do 3 or 4 sets of that, and you should start to feel the difference. You should start to feel that your muscles are breaking down, and if there is a particular range of movement that you're not used to, that you struggle with, then this will help to grow with that as well. If you want to, say, work on the peaks of your biceps a little bit more, you can do that, or any particular area of your body, then you can focus on that. So as this is a training method, you can apply this to absolutely any exercise. However, I would be careful as to what exercise you're doing it with. I would recommend doing a multi-joint exercise, a compound exercise, such as the squats, deadlifts, bench press, exercises like that, even military presses. But if you're going to do it with a isolation exercise, then you're going to feel even more tension, and it might be a little bit more uncomfortable. So make sure to practice this with a compound exercise first before you try any isolation exercises. But of course, be careful and be safe when you're doing this. It can be quite dangerous, especially if you've got that weight over the top of you. So make sure it is fully secured, and if you feel more comfortable with a spotter, make sure you've got one. So that's all I've got for you for today on Overcoming Isometrics. Thank you to Louise for providing some of the footage and exercise examples for me. I'm going to leave you her link to her Facebook profile down below so you can check her out. If you've got any other questions about Overcoming Isometrics or isometrics in general, then don't forget to comment down below. If you've enjoyed the content for today, I've got similar videos on similar subjects. All you have to do is check out my profile, and don't forget to subscribe as well. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Thank you for watching.